Kalimera, spera, nichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It is Monday Madness, and look at that. Look at those two good-looking people there. Let's get stuck in, squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
It is indeed Monday Madness, and he's one of my favourites, although he is also very polarising in the Arsenal community. He keeps coming back, though. This is his 5th season on Highbury Squad. Mr. Jason Cundy, Bosh, and welcome back.
Hello, Sophie. Thank you very much for inviting me back.
It's always good to have you, Jay. Everything good weekend in general, like as football aside, you know,
yeah,
anything fun?
I mean, no, I was at Talksport on Saturday. Chelsea won. I mean, a pretty drab affair, if I'm completely honest with you. But you know, it's like at this stage of the season, so results are more important than performances, in all honesty. But you know, we've not had a great 2025, if I'm brutally honest. So we'll get stuck into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we will. We'll definitely get stuck into it. And I want to start off with the elephant in the room. You know, these listeners.
Before we go any further, so sorry. You know, whenever I've done these shows with you, I've always been with Kev. It's the first time I've done this show with you without Kev. And you and I were messaging one another when he was ill. So I just thought, I've known Kev since I was 13, 14, maybe even longer. So I just thought I would just, you know, sadly missed, great fella. And I'm sure he's missed by all the Gunners around the world, and yourself included.
Jay, I really appreciate that. And you and I message a lot, and I really appreciate your support during that really difficult time. Yeah, and I think you know how much Kevin adored you. One of his favorite Talksport shows ever was that Sports Bar Friday night where you were playing tunes for him, and he loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, it was a really great show. And you guys go way back. I mean, when you were on last, you were talking about the schools that you were going to together back in the day, and the Chelsea, Arsenal. Yeah. So great memories. And by the way, because you bring that up, and I know you know some of these fellas too, I've become an ambassador for Kevin's foundation. His awesome sister, Lorna Campbell, and the whole family are keeping the legacy going with the Kevin Campbell Foundation. And these fine fellas who you may have heard of, also now ambassadors of the Kevin Campbell Foundation. There's going to be a great night in London on the 25th. Where fans get to listen to these legends talk about the beautiful game, Jay. Yeah. You know, you've played against them, haven't you, in your time?
I've played against all of them, yes, at some stage, yeah, all of them,
Yeah, top shelf guys. And the link for tickets, there's still just a few left, you guys, so go grab them. I'll put the link in the description. Thanks, Jay, for that. Right, let's switch gears a little bit. And, you know, let's just start with the question that everyone wants me to ask you. All right. You made some comments after Miles Lewis-Skelly's epic goal celebration. Yeah. And for us, it was an epic goal celebration. I mean, you know, there's a lot of joy that's been sucked out of football, and you beat Man City 5-1, and it was one of those moments where we always get spanked, Jay, and we're the dartboard and stuff. I just wondered, do you regret your comments after about Miles Lewis-Skelly?
I regret how clumsy I put it, if I'm honest. It wasn't particularly well put by me, but I don't regret saying that he shouldn't have done it. I thought that he showed a bit of naivety at that time. There was a title to be fought for, and I felt that was something that didn't need to happen. He's a young boy, extremely talented. You know, he will almost certainly be in the next England squad. And I felt if I was a senior pro and a young kid did that, I would be asking why. What's the benefit? What are you trying to gain here? And it was built up because of what happened previously in the season. And we all heard what Erling Haaland had to say. not just to him. I think he might have had comments about stay humble. Was that to Arteta?
Yeah, that was to Mikel.
So it was all
and he
built
said,
up.
"Who are you?" He said to Miles Lewis-Skelly, "Who are you?"
Well, at the time, Lewis-Skelly was very much off most people's radars, and I just felt that the win was overshadowed by something like that because you battered them, and I don't think that needed to actually happen. And then it was the song afterwards, that playing out on the speakers, was it Kendrick Lamar, the humble side. I don't know. It's now when you look what's happened to Arsenal, it does feel a little bit like concentrate on what you could have done and win the title, close down Liverpool. City were in your, they're in your dust. You're over the hills and far away from them. And I just think there will be a moment that for Lewis-Skelly, he's going to play against Haaland. I think this is what you're talking about when I was talking about what I meant to say. And as I said, it was clumsily put by me. What I meant to say and what I was driving at was that there will be moments that Erling Haaland will get one over on Lewis-Skelly. There will be moments where he will be able to turn around, walking down the tunnel when they've beaten 2-0 or something happens. And it was clumsily put by me. There isn't no way I would ever endorse, someone injuring another player. My career was cut short through injury. And it was clumsily put because what I meant to say on the lines were that he will have a chance to get one over him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't particularly well put by me because the example I gave was one of Roy Keane doing something to his dad, which was where my brain was going, but it didn't quite come out the way that I meant. And of course, the tribalism of fans, then everyone's saying that I'm condoning breaking legs. Well, one, his dad's leg wasn't broken. He actually played the week after. But it's amazing how tribalism, they hear what they want to hear. And I had a good friend of mine, an Arsenal friend of mine, messaged me next morning. I didn't even know what I'd said, saying, "I can't believe what's a phrase along the lines of you are encouraging him to have his leg broken or snapped in half."
Right.
And I said, "What?" And then I looked back over the clip. I got my producer to send it to me, and I said nothing of the kind. All it was clumsily put on my part. But there is in no way so if I would ever encourage any player to deliberately, recklessly try and injure another player. That's not my style, and that was definitely not what I meant.
Yes. Okay. Good stuff. And thank you for answering the question as well. And hopefully we've put that to bed for the listeners. Of course, they wanted to hear from you on that.
I admit it was poorly put by me. I look at it now. Could I have worded that differently? Yes, of course I could have done. Did I mean for his leg broken? 100% no.
Can I ask you real quick what you think of, when Anthony Gordon did the Thierry Henry on the corner flag? Do you hate all that stuff? Are you?
I didn't even know about that. I didn't even know. I just felt, there's certain things that players do. There's the housery that Vardy's gets up with and all that sort of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of don't mind it. I just felt at that particular moment, I just didn't sit with me. I thought, come on, get yourself back the halfway line. You rub their nose in it. I didn't think that needed to happen. But
is that because Vardy's won a Premier League, so he's got the gravitas to do it?
Maybe. Lewis-Skelly, look, he's going to be England's left back. You would have thought.
This is why I know you're a fan of him and NWANERI. These two boys, yeah.
The two of them are going to be absolute superstars. And I think Arsenal fans, you guys must be incredibly excited about what the future holds, because there's the nucleus of a really good young squad coming through. But you've also got the likes of the two centre halves. You've got Declan Rice, you've got Odegaard right down the spine. We've not even spoken about Saka yet.
Yeah, we're getting to him. I'm going to get to him. So, and by the way, real quick, did you think Declan Rice is getting pelters for celebrating his goal in the manner in which he did it against Man United? Was that a little cheap?
I was at Stamford Bridge covering the Ballfest against Leicester. So I this kind of it's all went over my head. I've only caught up with it this morning. I think from what I can gather that that was the equaliser. So go and get the ball and get yourself back and see if you can get the win. I think, is that what people are saying?
Yeah. And Martinelli was yelling at him as well, apparently. That's
I think in that particular moment, I don't know. Maybe he was getting a little bit of flack from the Man United fans. He
was.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've no problem with it.
He'll have his reasons as to why he did it, but if it was the imagine if that was the second goal, that was the winner, I get the celebration there.
Yeah.
Because there's a minute to go or something. But I don't know. Declan, he's a senior pro now, Dec, and he'll have his reasons as to why he did it. I don't know why.
I agree, and I showed that picture on the show yesterday, guys, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Some fans think it was crass and others don't care, and I just think, don't take the joy out of football. It's Man United, Arsenal still, and even though the game felt meaningless, it's really bizarre. One of the most, I was saying to Max Rushton yesterday on the show, Jay, that it felt like, even though we've got to finish second, we need the points. Of course it has meaning, but in the sense of Man United, Arsenal, it felt a little meaningless.
Let me ask you this, Soph. Do you think he would have done that celebration if you were 4 points behind them?
Yes.
Okay.
I do wonder, because
I just wonder whether the league has gone, and I don't know. Only he knows. But if they were catchable, Liverpool, I wonder whether they've got the ball. I don't know. I'm asking the question.
It's a good question. I think because Declan has been given a lot of grief at a few stadiums, and when you're a really good player, that's going to happen to you, right? I think even more so, what we've lacked this year is passion and showing that fight and that passion. And so for me, I thought he was the one player, along with David Ray, even after his mistake, to kind of stand up as a goalkeeper and make the saves that he did in the second half. Says a lot about his character. I thought Declan put the team on his shoulders yesterday a lot.
He was outstanding. He was.
And between the two of them, I thought that they saved us yesterday, because it wasn't good.
Ray you talk about the free kick. You felt Ray could have done better.
Yeah.
I hear that.
He left him such a gaping space. I don't know what he was thinking, but my goodness, in the second half, he saved our skin. And you know what I wanted to ask you, Jay? I'm moving away from a little bit. I love how the conversation with you goes in different directions, but there are some things from this I want to ask you, because you played in an era where some people say, oh, I love football how it used to be. Now, I think there's a lot of things about the modern game that are really beautiful. The football, I think that we've seen, in the Ronaldo, Messi era, the Eden Hazard, Ozil, even Bergkamp, Henry, it was really special, right? It feels to me that the joy is being sucked out of players a little bit. And you can tell me, you're a player, and I hear you and Jamie talk about it sometimes. This possession obsession that Mikel has, I think, has sucked the life out of our players a little bit. The last 2 seasons, we've played with joy. We've played with passion. The boys look like they've been enjoying their football. I know the injuries have hurt us. That's probably sucked the life out of the players, excuse me, a little bit too. But this possession obsession, playing out the back, modern day football, what's your take on it, in particular to how we've played this season as well, but also as a whole? I just think the Premier League has kind of sucked this year. I don't think it's been great.
No, I agree with you. I don't think this has been a stellar Premier League season. I've said many times this season, I've got absolutely slaughtered by Liverpool fans, that I don't think Liverpool are a brilliant watch. I've seen the Liverpool sides under Klopp and where Pep and those two were going toe to toe. 3 or 4 seasons on the spin. I felt that was probably in the recent era, that was probably the best that we've seen. This season, it's been a pretty pathetic title challenge from Arsenal, really, with the way things have panned out. Arsenal have been poor below poor this year. Spurs and Man United haven't even spoken about those two yet, what their seasons look like. Chelsea, the fact that we've got Nottingham Forest doing what they're doing, I think tells you a little bit about what kind of season this has been. Even Man City's season has been pretty poor. I don't want to take anything away from Forest, by the way, because Nuno has been a remarkable season, what they've achieved and what they still look like they're going to do. I don't think they're going anywhere fast, by the way. I think their top 4 position is pretty looking pretty good right now. Going back to the possession obsession, I mean, Maresca's not dissimilar. The build-up at time can be slow and laborious. There was a time under Arteta where there has to be a purpose when you're in possession. What is the purpose? The purpose is to get the ball high up the pitch in the final third and create chances. And Chelsea don't do that enough for my money. The injuries with Saka. Saka clearly creates huge amounts of problems. Him and Odegaard linked up very, very well. The fact that Jesus has gone injured, there's a lot of talk about Arsenal not having a focal point to their attack. Havertz will do a job. Havertz is capable of doing a job. He's not going to be the sustained number 9 that he's going to win you a title. Might win you a cup playing up like that. Might, will in certain games look like a top striker. But the reality is he's not. I don't know what his best position is actually. I felt a bit sorry for him at Chelsea at times because he played on the right, played deep, played up top. I think he's a foil for someone off the striker. But then that's where Odegaard likes to operate. But it's not just an Arsenal thing, Soph. When
I look at these, I kind of put up here, where is the popcorn football gone? I know that you're not a particularly huge fan of Neymar, but there's been some moments where, I mean, he's shown special. I miss Alexis Sanchez. Yeah. This is why I'm excited about NWANERI, because Sanchez was the last Arsenal player who got me on my feet. Eden Hazard, absolutely brilliant. Cristiano, of course. Messi's not in this picture, but there are a lot of players that aren't in this picture. Yeah. But where is the football gone? Like it's really weird when I saw Iwobi at the weekend, an ex-Arsenal player. But I thought, wow, look at him. He's running down the flank and he put in this unbelievable cross. But he took on the play around. You just don't see players in the modern game doing that. And I think it's the managers that are sucking that out of them, because it feels like creativity is almost a dying breed, Jay.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that was probably your issue yesterday was having loads of possession. Also, I think we are looking now at where teams are defensively very well organised. So Chelsea played the last 2 games we played. Copenhagen played a back 5. Leicester played a back 5. And when they play a back 5 and they've got the 3 or the 4 in front of that back 5, there isn't a lot of space in which to operate. What do you then need to do? It's then the speed in which there's a transition to move the ball high up through the thirds. And I'll ask you, do you think Arsenal move when there is, for example, maybe a set piece for Man United, maybe a corner or a free kick in the wide areas? When Arsenal win possession back, what you used to be, as far as I'm aware, you still are very good at it, is on that counter-attack from when their players are out of position. Mm-hmm. When they sit in their shape and they've been well coached, they've got the 5 and the 3, then it's much harder, because the space in the wide areas is dominated by the wing backs. You've got now doubling up. I see players double up on Saka. Gordon, in Newcastle, I can't remember the game who it was playing against, but Gordon was doubling up with Lewis Hall. And you're like, where's the space? So therefore, you're then looking for that creativity from someone like an Odegaard in that number 10, find that little pass, that little threaded pass. But I think you're looking at teams now frustrating others. And that's how it's been, I think, for just the last 2 days at Chelsea. Arsenal won't do that at the weekend, which I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how we operate when a team isn't going to sit deep. They are going to go overlapping fullback. They are going to look to get in behind you. It will be a far more open game than I've seen in the last 2 or 3 games for Chelsea.
Yeah, we've if there's one criticism I have of Mikel, is that he's not cracked the low block code, as the kids say these days. Basically, defensive teams, I'm Generation Xer, they're still defensive teams. Low block, mid block.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it's not easy. If you get a team that's well organised and they've got a back, see what they sometimes do now, if you're playing a back 4, they then play a narrow back 4, and the wide men from the midfield then drop in. That sometimes makes a 6. The space, obviously, I mean, you do the maths. The space has got to be somewhere on a football pitch. Has to be, because the space will there be for be in front where Odegaard and we saw Declan Rice playing a little bit more further forward. But then you end up having either shots from distance or trying to thread passes through into space that is so narrow and so congested. And it's got to be, you're now looking for the most perfect pass, weighted, direction away from the defenders, straight into the path of play. It's not easy. It's, you can sit there for 90 minutes and all it takes is for one mistake from the back 4 or 5. And that's really got to capitalise on it. And I thought Man United did well yesterday, actually. I thought,
I did too, unfortunately.
But Amorim's, he's got his back against the wall as well. That's a good point for them. It's a great point for them.
If you're a Man United fan and you're having your worst season in Premier League history and you have been absolute dog crap in the Premier League, you come out of that game feeling a little bit proud of your players and your manager. Fair. I'm not looking at this through rose-coloured glasses. I really do. They deserved the point, and to be fair, at the end, it could have been a disaster, but for David Raya and the tackle from Declan Rice, which was world class, a world class tackle.
I mean, you've got to get that right, as you know, and he was onto it straight away. You go to ground in the box and you don't win the ball 9 times out of 10 or 19 out of 20, you're going to give a penalty away. So you've got to get that right. You've absolutely got to get that right. But I mean, Man United, they've shown against Liverpool away, City away, Arsenal home, they are capable of getting a result against the better sides.
Yeah, knocked us out of the FA Cup as well. I was bitterly disappointed yesterday. I know that we've had injuries. I know it's been difficult for us. Thank God for that core at the back. But, other than Declan Rice, it's hard for Odegaard because everything we've done, Jay, has been going through this man. Yeah, and it's hard for him, but he needs to try and find and explore playing out that left side more. But Trossard's been poor. I do feel for him. I wanted to just get your quick take. Now Saka's not in this Arsenal team. And of course, we've seen him compared and people talking about England and Anthony Gordon and Madueke and your boy Cole Palmer, who I do think is an absolute class player, is off form a little bit right now. But Saka, are we now do you think people appreciate him even more now that he's been missing? Have you changed any opinions, or is it the same? I think he's a world-class player and he's wonderful.
Converted with me. So I'm you push an open door. I've always felt that Saka is one of the elite players in the England squad, and the best England side for me has Saka on that right-hand side, and when everyone's fit. I mean, we'll see what Tuchel does. We see the shape he's going to play, how he operates. Everyone's yet to open to see exactly what Tuchel does. But I don't. When you say people don't appreciate him, I mean outside of Arsenal, are you saying?
Yeah, outside of Arsenal. Right. Yeah.
Well, look, I can't speak on behalf of them. I've been a huge fan of Saka. He's the boy's a serious talent, and if he keeps himself fit, and I don't know how worried you are about this hamstring injury for him, because
very.
Yeah, it's Reece James at Chelsea. He's had hamstring problems. Michael Owen, of course, famously. Once you have a hamstring problem, you have an operation there. You wonder, because he has got such a low centre of gravity and that burst of pace where he twists and uses those muscles. I hope for his sake that this is just going to be an injury that he overcomes, sits the rest of the season out, and comes back fighting next season on a personal level for him, and also for England level next summer.
Jay, I don't want him to come back this season.
No, he shouldn't. What's the benefit?
And it's like talk of end of April or whatever. I'm like, why? What's the point in bringing him back? If there's a player to wrap up in, bubble wrap and put him on the windowsill and keep him safe, it's Saka.
Yeah, and unless there might be 1 or 2 appearances from the bench, last 15 minutes. I'm with you. The only other way, so is if obviously Champions League. All right, if there is a chance that he could make an appearance, make a difference in a game where it's potentially going to be tight. It might be a second leg. It might be extra time. Who knows? Maybe that might be Arteta's thinking. If he can get him back in contention, that's probably what he's thinking. As far as the league's concerned, there's no point in doing that.
No, not at all.
But the Champions League is obviously, still very much still alive. I mean, God, you're into the next round, or into the quarterfinals.
I was going to get to that a bit later, but seeing as you brought it up, one of our listeners wanted to ask you a question about the Champions League. So this is Marky Mark. I'll let him take it away.
Hi, Jason. How you doing? Well, mate. Firstly, congrats on scraping past Leicester yesterday. Secondly, who do you think Arsenal would stand a better chance of beating the next round of the Champions League? Either Atletico Madrid, who play a really, really low block, and at the minute we don't really have a striker, so I think we'll struggle against them. Or Real Madrid, who are one of the best teams in the world, who we could potentially counter-attack against. Let me know your thoughts. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Well, it's a great question, and the truth is, both answers will be, well, Real Madrid have the pedigree, the know-how, the players. They operate at a seriously high level, but there are moments in this Real Madrid team that they can be got at. I would prefer to play Real Madrid if I was a Gooner. The doggedness of Simeone's teams where they sit deep, and you and I have just had this conversation, I think that would be a horrible war of attrition. And we know how difficult Simeone's sides are to play against. A little bit like what I've just said there about playing Arsenal this weekend. Real Madrid will give you the freedom or give you the space to play. They will, because they won't worry about what happens that way. Well, obviously they will, but they'll be more concerned about what we can do. How can we hurt Arsenal? Simeone's teams are very different. How can we stop Arsenal, and then how can we hurt them? So it's slightly the other way around for both of them. But I mean, both have their problems to overcome. The low block, the blockiness, defending, the spite that he has in his teams as well. There's that element to it.
If it was Chelsea, Jay, would you want Real Madrid too, considering how Maresca plays as well? Would you go down that route?
I mean, just watching us how we struggle against teams that sit deep, and we could, I've watched us play against so many teams, not just Maresca actually, over the years where teams have come and set deep. It's without someone like a Hazard, who he's the little bit of magic at times that would win a game in a blink of an eye for just a piece of magic. I mean, I can't even think about Chelsea at that level right now. So if it's, for me to think about Chelsea playing against Real Madrid in the Champions League, it's such a long way away. I'm not even sure my brain can go there.
Fair. It's joyous to watch, I have to say. I'm going to swing back to the Premier League. Do you really think, I know that you mentioned at the top of the show that you don't think Liverpool have been that great. Don't you think, though, they've been more than just lucky? I keep hearing how lucky Liverpool have been. And of course, luck plays a huge part, Jay, in winning a title. But clearly, they're 15 points clear. They're 20 plus points clear of Manchester City. City have lost 9 games. We've drawn 10. I never had any of this on my bingo card. And also, Klopp winning 1 Premier League title, I guess, he has a great legacy having won the Champions League and domestic cups. But do you really think they've just been lucky?
No, I don't think they've been lucky at all. And there's a lot to like about what Slot has done. He recognised that whenever a manager comes into a club, more often than not, it's because the club is in distress. The manager gets sacked. The players have got the manager sacked. The falling out of Champions League spot for whatever reason. Rarely do you get a club the size of Liverpool where the club is in such a good place financially, the squad, and what Slot's very lucky he's come into a situation like this, because all he's recognised the squad is still very good squad, vastly experienced, right down the spine of that team. Salah as well, Van Dijk. You've got Trent, Robinson. You've got Champions League, Premier League winners littered through this squad. Plus, he's now changed the way they are slightly defensively. Gravenberch has been that dog in the midfield. He still gets forward, by the way. He doesn't just sit deep. But if you watch the way that they defend, they flood back in numbers. They are an incredibly difficult side to beat. And there's a reason they've only been beat once this season. I don't think they're particularly brilliant. When I say I felt that the Liverpool side that finished second behind City under Klopp was a better, more aesthetically pleasing side to watch, for me, my own personal opinion. That doesn't mean to say that they've not been excellent, because they have. But where's the challenge been? They've embarrassed the Premier League. Liverpool have embarrassed the Premier League because they're going to win this league at a canter. They have not been put under any real pressure at all. There was moments in the season, perhaps around Christmas and New Year. Other than that, they've walked it. It's been a cakewalk. And this was the year. If Arsenal won the title since 2004. You might look back on this year and think, wow, this is the year we could have won it, because City weren't there, Chelsea weren't there, Man United weren't there, Spurs weren't there. Villa have tailed off a little bit. Newcastle haven't been quite. Every one of those teams next season, you would have thought will come back stronger. You would have thought it's only Liverpool. They're the only team, and it's been a cakewalk for them. So, and they've deserved it.
Yeah. I can't believe you put Spurs in that sentence, but we'll allow it. I mean, they did. It feels to me like the Leicester year where Arsenal or Tottenham should have won it, and in the end, Arsenal ended up finishing second because Tottenham got that humiliating 5-1 battering at Newcastle. It does feel like a missed opportunity. And narrative for a lot of Arsenal fans. I put this pick up earlier of our injured players. What if Odegaard wasn't out for 3 months? What if I like playing the what if game, and sometimes I don't. But what, Jay? Is it a different story?
Well, it wasn't last year. I know you had 1 or 2 injuries there.
Mm-hmm.
The best squad tends to win. The best squad tends to win the Premier League. You need a little bit. You need good luck with injuries. There's no doubt about that. But injuries happen, and no one's going to feel sorry for any team in the Premier League because of the wealth of the league, and see how much the deep pockets. I just wonder, asking you now, do you feel that some of these are preventable? And for Havertz to go away for warm weather training and to come back and tear the hamstring so bad, that doesn't make sense to me. That seriously does not make sense to me. I cannot fathom how that can happen, because to tear a hamstring like that, you've got to put some stress through that hamstring, and you've got to be working at such a level. You would have thought that's warm weather training. That's weird. I know a lot of gooners phone up the sports bar and have been saying to me and Jamie for years now that they felt Saka has been overused. They felt that Saka has been in games where perhaps he could have come out, games where he didn't need to start. And I don't know what you guys think of that.
For England as well, Jay. Some meaningless games where Saka could have been rested, and
that's not the England manager's problem, is it? That's he's got a job to do.
Yes,
I just wonder how that sits, because some of the goons have phoned up and said that they felt that this hamstring injury to Saka was almost predictable.
Well, I think that Havertz was crying out for help. I think it was at the end of the Wolves game. We had Charles Watts on and a couple of other journos, and they said that he looked like he literally needed to be carried off in a stretcher. And I think of all the players, knowing where we were at that point, having lost Saka, Havertz is an experienced player. I mean, he's still young. It's crazy to think his age and kind of what his experience. He should have been the one, to me, sitting by the pool, sipping a virgin pina colada, and resting. Right. So there are question marks there. Some people will say, well, look at the squad we've had at that point. We're still challenging. But when you see our front three, all 3 of these players, and 2 of them needing surgery, all went out with hamstrings. Yeah. And I'm of the volition that Mikel Arteta, this possession obsession, has put a lot of strain on these players and what he asks them to do off the ball. Now, you're a footballer, you know better than I do, but to me, what Havertz has to do off the ball, what Martinelli has to do off the ball, Saka, there's a lot of demands. He's obsessed with winning duels. When you hear him talk in the presser afterwards, Jay, it's a lot about we dominated possession, we won our duels, but what's the point if you don't win the game? But I do think that Havertz was also overplayed. And then some people will say the argument to that is, well, what's he going to do? Right. Well, we need to be better prepared for that as a club. And we failed in that area.
Well, yes. I mean, the transfer window in the January came and went. I mean, no one could have predicted what happened. It did, but the squad depth now is so important, because the seasons, they are so long, and especially if you're going deep into the cup competitions like in the Champions League, the season is truncated even more. But then I'll ask you about Liverpool, because Arne Slot has managed to, yes, they've had injuries. You know, the keeper Becker was out for some time. Trent has had an injury, I believe. But largely their squad has been pretty free of injuries. And you're talking about how they flood back defensively. I watch them out of possession when they lose the ball high up the pitch. Maybe Salah less so. Maybe, you know, I don't see him chasing back to, you know, to helping out Trent too much, you know, or whoever, you know, on the other side does Gakpo end up doubling up with. There might be games they do that, but largely that is the midfield three that drop in. And Gravenberch's had such a good season. Of course, they've lost experience, but their injury record, I think Slot deserves a huge amount of credit.
Yeah,
they've got this far in the season, and they're big dogs, they're big heads, the ones that the game changers haven't picked up any injuries. And Salah's having the season of his life.
I would like Saka to have that same luxury as Salah. I think Saka should be that type of player, whereas if you don't want to defend, don't defend all the time. You know, pick your moments and stuff. I would love that. He works so tirelessly. So, yeah, I agree with that. And also last season, we had the luxury of fewer injuries. Mostly we got lucky with our squad. And so you would say, well, how can you say that he's mismanaging it this season when last season? But I think he squeezes everything out of a starting 11. That's what's happened at Arsenal.
Yeah, he is one of those managers that demands a huge amount, and so you should. You know, this Premier League, it's a, you know, no one's going to give it to you. Sometimes you've got to dig in and, you know, and get yourself back and work hard. But yeah, I think that there's, and do you know what, Sophie? It's not. I don't think I've ever known a season or the last 2 seasons like it, with the amount of injuries that the Premier League has had.
Yeah.
Whole now, if you want, you know, want to just look at how many injuries, clubs have been littered with injuries. Chelsea have been littered. Spurs have been littered with injuries. You know, City have had their own injury problem. It does feel, Man United, it does feel that there's more injuries in the modern game now than there ever. That's how it feels. I don't know whether statistically that's correct or not, but
it feels that way. I agree. Right, we got 10 minutes left, and I'm going to ask you. I've got a couple more for you right here. So, and you can keep this one short because I know kind of how you feel about it. But it's been bad this season. We had Keith Hackett on as well. Do you think, Jay, that VAR has ruined football?
No, I don't think VAR has ruined football. I think the way that it's operated has to improve. You know what will happen if we had VAR for a month? Premier League got rid of it for a month. You know as well as I do, there will be an incident that will affect a big game, and all of a sudden there'll be the cries to bring in VAR. I think the VAR has a place in the modern game. The semi-automated offsides, that the technology the Premier League decided not to use the same technology what was used in the World Cup. They waited and waited, and by the looks of it, that technology is not of the level that the World Cup technology was. That needs to change. I think that the referees are being scrutinised now so much because there are 20 cameras around, the angles you can get, they're hard to miss. Referees have had a poor season. I'm happy to say that, but I think that the VAR is there as a tool to help the refs. And yeah, they're not going to get every decision right. I don't know why football fans think that the referees will. You know, VAR is run by humans. Humans make mistakes. The only thing is, right, it was only when it happens to our club do we go, what about that? What about that? But the truth is, sometimes you do get those rub of the green. You do get the decisions that go your way. I mean, I thought Champions League the other night. I don't know what you thought, but I thought who's the Liverpool centre half? Should have got sent off.
Canate.
Canate, sorry, you're right. Canate. I felt it was a push in the back, and and I'm watching it thinking they're going to go. Well, that was across Europe, and apparently their refs are brilliant. But I felt he got away with that particular one. You know, you need a bit of luck.
Keith Hackett's of the volition that, and I know he's been on Talksport as well. He thinks Michael Oliver should have been benched for a few games. He thinks he's made some bad calls. He thinks it's a little bit too pally protection. You know, the PR, the spinning, and all of that. I think if there was more consistency, that's what fans have issues with. It's rules, consistency, and the incompetence sometimes in the inconsistency. is, I think, what drives fans up the wall, Jay.
Players are inconsistent. Managers are inconsistent. You know, they're human. They will make mistakes. Goalkeepers make mistakes. Centre forward make mistakes. We always look to try and blame, or what is the reason I think sometimes you've got to look a little bit closer to home, personally. I think it's too easy to blame the refs. Yes, at times I see some decisions yesterday at Stamford Bridge by the referee where he's giving some silly little free kicks. You're thinking, come on, ref. But I think we've got to suck it up and accept it, that some we get, some we don't, and there's no such thing as consistent football. It's impossible, because one ref might see something one way, another ref might see something the other way. I think what upsets fans at times is if it's in the same game where you see similar.
Like our game, Miles Lewis-Skelly red, and then the Wolves, the challenge on Timber. You do exactly the same.
You do get, so therefore I kind of understand where the fans are going for there, but it happens, you know. Yeah. Everyone, I make mistakes, so I don't know whether you do. I don't know whether you do. So you probably don't.
Well, let's finish on this one real quick. Our two teams meet again.
Yep.
I thought that we should have won that game at Stamford Bridge, but you know, you get what you pay for. Neto with a really sweet, neat finish, a play that a lot of Arsenal fans actually wanted for a while. Your best player has lost form, missed his first penalty in the. That's a crazy stat, though. Missed his first penalty. What are you expecting Arsenal v Chelsea coming up on Sunday?
Oh dear. Worried about what I might see. We will not keep a clean sheet, so someone will score for Arsenal. Okay, that's
I wonder who.
That will absolutely happen. Yeah, we're a funny old team, you know. We can at moments look very good, but there are times defensively where we look set pieces. We conceded a goal away at Copenhagen. I don't know whether you saw that particular goal. It's just a ball to the far post, and there's two at the far post. That's who we are at times in set pieces. I worry around set pieces. Arsenal better than us. The league will show you that. I've seen enough football this season and this year actually. Arsenal, yeah, they've had it tough, but Arsenal are a better team than us. I can't see us winning the game, so I really can't make a case for us winning it. What I will say though is that Arsenal will give us more space to play and give us because you won't congest the edge of your box unless you get back into your shape. I've seen Arsenal do it, and they do it well. You know, I've seen Arsenal take the lead, and all of a sudden you got the four at the back. You got Declan Rice alongside Partey. You got Odegaard sitting in, and you're difficult to break down. You can at times do that, but largely over a 90-minute game, you will give Chelsea a bit of space. Pedro Neto's pace over the top, that's the ball. We don't stretch the pitch enough for me. Wide areas, I still think we need a little bit more creativity out in the wide areas. Noni's injured at the moment, so we've got Sancho one side, and Nkunku is not a wide player. He's just not. He likes to operate in and around that mid-third a little bit where Palmer operates. What am I expecting? A defeat. I can't. A draw is the best right now I can hope for.
Jay, which manager is still at their club at the start of next season? Maresca or Arteta?
Next season?
Yeah, not next season. The following. So we're starting football in August, and that following season, because a lot of Arsenal fans think Mikel should be under pressure. Andrea Berta's coming in, the Atletico Madrid guy.
Yeah.
Which manager do you?
As far as Arsenal are concerned, I think that there are deficiencies in the squad. I think that needs to be rectified. That talk about a striker, that has to change. And Arteta. I know he got uppity yesterday after being asked again about the striker situation, and I don't know whether it's his decision or the club's or a joint one, but I think if he does end up getting a 20-goal season striker, I think Arsenal can win the title. I felt Arsenal would win it this year. I backed Arsenal to win it. I didn't think City would be as bad as they were. I didn't think Liverpool was going to be as good as they were, but I felt Arsenal would improve again because you got so close. And I think if you have a similar season next year and he is given the tools, I think there might be time to think we need to move on. That if the title, he might win the Champions League this season. I think Arsenal can win the Champions League.
Are you serious?
No, I am. Yeah, I think I said it when you won 7-1. I said it before the back in December when you continued. Arsenal can win the Champions League. Now, improbable, but not impossible. I've seen Chelsea win this Champions League when we weren't at our very, very best. We had suspensions, we had injuries, and we still went to go and win. It's about what you do in 2 90-minute games up until the final. And you can find a way. It might be a refereeing decision, a sending off, a mistake. You can. It's the best side does not always win this Champions League. So I think Arsenal can. In terms of what Chelsea next season, Maresca needs to get into that. This season, obviously, top 4 is very much in the balance. But I don't think any Chelsea fan or anyone would accept Chelsea not qualifying for the Champions League next season, if that's what you're asking me, right? Next season. And he will. They said it's a minimum 2-year project with Maresca. He's going to get that. We will see.
All right, brilliant stuff. Wow, you've left me a bit shocked. Listen, there's always hope. Hope is not a plan, but it does feel like sometimes there's these anomaly years in the Champions League where not the best team wins and the team that's hurt the most. And that year that you did beat Barcelona, no one was expecting that, really, at all.
Messi missed a penalty. Messi missed a penalty in the semi-final. Robin missed a penalty in the final. You need a bit of rub of the green, a bit of good fortune to go on and lift this trophy. And Chelsea in 21 as well. Very similar. We played up against Man City. We weren't the best side in country, let alone Europe. So, they'll go close, Arsenal. They'll go very close.
All right, Jay. Well, appreciate you. I know you're not on the old social sphere anymore.
No, so do I.
Yeah. Well, very wise, very wise. And you get 30 seconds to leave a statement for the Gooners. What would you like to say to them? We do this with every guest. Right. 30 seconds. What is your message to the Gooner universe?
Don't take me too seriously, okay? Because a lot of fans take football too serious. I know it's the most important thing of unimportant things outside your family, your kids, your mortgage, all the things that really do matter. Football is probably right at the very top of the list, of the next list. But I try to have fun. Yeah, I say things that upset people, but ultimately, I'm not a bad person. Actually, I think I'm all right. But don't take it too seriously, and try and enjoy it. Sometimes I say things that upset you. Who cares?
Jason Cundy, thank you so much for joining. You're absolutely brilliant. And hope you've enjoyed that one, squaddies. At ease. Don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them, squaddies. And at ease. See you soon.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.